Hello. In this review, we'll talk about the British FV430 family of armored vehicles. The FV432 armored personnel carrier and its counterparts were developed around the same time as the American M113 armored personnel carrier. However, while the American APC has enjoyed and continues to enjoy widespread demand around the world, its British counterpart unfortunately never gained the same level of fame. I'll walk you through the key versions of the FV430 family and their capabilities. Around 18 different modifications were created, but not all of them made it past the prototype stage. So I'll focus on the versions that were actually used by the British Army and entered serial production. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click like. It helps make our content better. Let's burn. The story of the M113 and the FV430 began in the late 1950s. Visually, if you don't know the differences between these two armored personnel carriers, it's easy to mistake one for the other. Both feature a boxy hull design and 5 road wheels on each side. However, there are a number of differences in layout and the versions that were developed. In 1958, the UK began considering the need for a new armored personnel carrier to transport soldiers to the front lines. The FV430 was a product of the Cold War. The British anticipated that if open conflict broke out with the Soviet Union, they would need suitable vehicles for transporting troops, providing cover, and conducting reconnaissance. The well-known company GKN was awarded a contract by the UK Ministry of Defence to develop a family of armoured vehicles. In 1968, the company would become GKN Sankey Limited. Initially, the goal was to develop 3 versions of an armored vehicle under a program named Trojan, which also became the name of the project and the new vehicle family. The base version was designated FV430. A tracked chassis was chosen to enhance off-road mobility. The vehicle was intended to carry 8 to 10 infantrymen, be compact, but there was no requirement for it to be amphibious. GKN submitted 3 designs. The base FV430 version, even at the design stage, failed to meet expectations in terms of layout and capabilities. Development continued on the other 2 versions, the FV431, intended for cargo transport, and the FV432, which became the main armored personnel carrier and the basis for all subsequent variants. By 1961, 2 prototypes had been built, one for the FV431 and one for the FV432. By that time, the United States had already adopted the M113. After testing, the UK Ministry of Defence decided to reject the FV431, as it didn't meet the requirements. Only one prototype of it was ever built. However, the FV432 was well received, and in 1962, the ministry placed an order for its mass production along with the development of multiple modifications and subvariants based on the FV432. In 1963, the FV432 began entering service with the British Army. Production continued until 1971. Around 3,000 vehicles from the FV430 family were produced in various configurations. Britain attempted to market them to international buyers, but the FV430 lost out to the M113 in global competition. Even Australia, when choosing between the two, opted for the American model. A small number of FV432s were supplied to India, but the UK remained the primary and essentially only user of these armored vehicles. In 2006, the final version of this armored personnel carrier appeared, the FV430 Mk3 Bulldog. The British had learned hard lessons from the Iraq War, which led to the introduction of mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles and prompted upgrades to the FV432, enhancing armor and crew protection. Aside from Iraq, the other major deployment of the Bulldog APC has been the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. In 2023, the UK supplied these vehicles to Ukraine, where they were actively used in combat. Today, the UK has fewer than 2,000 of these armored vehicles remaining. Many are kept in storage, while some remain in active service with the British Army. Like many other tanks and armored vehicles from the Cold War or even World War II, they have been sold to private collectors. As a result, various versions of the FV430 can now be seen at parades and exhibitions. Naturally, their weapons are removed prior to sale. There are even some collectors who have repurposed these vehicles for rather unconventional tasks, not something you'd typically expect from military hardware. The story of the FV430 is still ongoing, and these vehicles will likely remain in British service for some time to come. Mass production began with the FV432 armored personnel carrier. It features a fully welded hull made from steel armor plates. The armor is 6 mm thick on the sides and rear, and 12 mm at the front. This provides protection against small arms fire and shell fragments. The FV432 is built on a tracked chassis and has 5 road wheels on each side. The driver is located at the front right of the vehicle. He has his own hatch and 3 periscopes, one of which can be replaced with a night vision periscope. The engine and transmission compartment is positioned at the front left. The 2 early versions, FV432 Mark I and Mark 1/1, were equipped with petrol engines, with the Mark 1/1 featuring an improved version over the original. However, only a few vehicles were produced with this engine. The majority of FV432s were built as Mark II and Mark 2/1 variants. These were fitted with a multi-fuel Rolls-Royce K60 engine producing 240 horsepower. The only difference between the Mark II and Mark 2/1 versions is the presence of nuclear, biological, and chemical protection in the Mark 2/1. Otherwise, they are identical. The vehicle is equipped with a semi-automatic transmission offering 5 forward gears and 1 reverse. It uses torsion bar suspension. The APC can reach a top speed of 52 km per hour. Its empty weight is 13.52 tons, and the combat weight is 15 tons. The vehicle is 5.25 meters long, 2.8 meters wide, and 2.28 meters high. Its operational range is up to 580 kilometers. Behind the driver sits the commander. He also has 3 periscopes and a hatch. The commander can be equipped with a 7.62 mm L7G PMG, also known as the Enfield L7. The ammunition load for this machine gun is 1,600 rounds. Alternatively, the vehicle could be armed with a Bren gun, which carried 1,400 rounds. At the rear of the vehicle is the troop compartment, capable of transporting up to 10 fully equipped infantry soldiers. There are 5 fold-down seats on each side, mounted along the inner walls. Troops enter through a rear door. On top of the troop compartment is a circular hatch with 2 doors that open to either side, allowing soldiers to fire their personal weapons or use other armaments without leaving the vehicle. The compartment can also carry up to 3,600 kilograms of cargo. This versatility was one of the reasons the FV431 cargo version was ultimately rejected. It essentially duplicated the capabilities of the FV432. As mentioned, the FV432 is equipped with NBC protection. Additionally, 3 smoke grenade launchers are mounted on each side of the front hull, above the headlights. Many modifications were developed based on the FV432 armored personnel carrier. Let's go over the key versions. The anti-tank self-propelled missile version had several designations, including FV432-40, 120 mm L6 Wombat, and FV432,120 mm Wombat. In this configuration, a 120 mm L6 Wombat recoilless gun was loaded into the troop compartment through the rear door. Wombat stands for Weapon of Magnesium, Battalion Anti-Tank. The gun was mounted through the roof hatch and used for engaging tanks. It could penetrate around 400 mm of armor and had a maximum range of about 2 kilometers, with an effective firing range of approximately 1 kilometer. The rate of fire was up to 4 rounds per minute. The crew consisted of 4 people. Additionally, an 84 mm Carl Gustaf recoilless rifle could be mounted on a special movable bracket. It could be used independently or in conjunction with the Wombat gun. Another version was fitted with a 30 mm cannon and known as the FV432 Raritan or FV432-30. This variant was equipped with the L21A1 Raritan 30 mm cannon, capable of hitting targets at around 1 kilometer. The rate of fire was 90 rounds per minute, and the crew consisted of 4. This modification was designed to provide direct fire support for troops. A dedicated ambulance version was also created. It could transport 4 wounded soldiers on stretchers in the troop compartment, or 2 stretcher patients along with 5 seated casualties. The FV432 Engineer Ranger was a mine-laying version. On top of the hull, a special module was installed with 4 rows of 18 launch tubes. These held containers filled with L-10 anti-personnel mines. In total, the system could deploy up to 1,296 mines in just 30 seconds, across an area between 50 and 250 meters. The same setup could also be used to scatter L9 anti-tank mines. Another modification was created specifically for minefield clearance. It was called the FV432 Giant Viper due to the Giant Viper remote mine clearing system mounted on a trailer. This system fired a 250-meter-long hose filled with explosives using a rocket. The hose would detonate on landing, clearing a path 200 meters long and 6 meters wide through anti-personnel and anti-tank mines. The FV430 81 mm mortar was a self-propelled mortar carrier. Inside the troop compartment, a special 360-degree rotating platform was installed to mount the L16 81 mm mortar. This mortar could hit targets up to 5,650 meters away. Up to 160 mortar rounds were stored in the rear compartment. Several other notable versions belong to the FV430 family. The FV433 eventually followed its own path and became the Abbott self-propelled artillery gun. It featured a turret and a 105 mm L13A1 gun with a barrel length of 37 calibers. The turret had full 360-degree traverse, and the elevation range of the gun was from -5 degrees to +70 degrees. The crew consisted of 4 members: driver, commander, gunner, and loader. The vehicle could carry and fire 40 to 42 rounds. The Abbott could engage targets at distances of up to 17 kilometers. Additionally, a 7.62 mm machine gun was mounted on the turret. Over 200 FV433 Abbott units were produced. The FV434 is a repair and recovery vehicle. This version weighs 17.5 tons. On the right side, it is equipped with a crane capable of lifting up to 3,050 kilograms at a reach of 2.26 meters, and up to 1,250 kilograms at a maximum reach of 3.96 meters. It was used for field maintenance and repair tasks, including engine replacement on tanks. It carried various tools and equipment for servicing other military vehicles. The crew consisted of 4. The FV435 Wavell was a mobile communications vehicle. It was quite complex and bulky, designed for establishing communications and relaying signals between military units. It featured several antennas and used complicated radio systems, but was slow and not user-friendly. Just over 40 vehicles were produced in this configuration, and all were retired by the early 1990s. The FV436 was originally equipped with the Green Archer radar, which was later replaced by the Cymbeline radar in British Army service. This version was intended for locating enemy mortars and their crews. It could detect 81 mm mortars at distances of up to 10 kilometers, 120 mm mortars up to 14 kilometers, and large 240 mm mortars at ranges of up to 20 kilometers. The FV437 was designed for reconnaissance and personnel evacuation. However, only a couple of prototypes were built, and the version never went into mass production. The FV438 Swingfire was another self-propelled anti-tank guided missile system. 2 Swingfire missile launchers were mounted on the top rear of the hull. These missiles had a range of up to 4 kilometers and could penetrate up to 800 millimeters of armor. In addition to the 2 ready-to-fire missiles, 14 more were carried inside the vehicle. It was also equipped with a 7.62 mm machine gun, with 650 rounds of ammunition. The crew consisted of 3. The FV439 Ptarmigan was fitted with an antenna, an automated command and control system, and the Ptarmigan Field Communication Suite. Like the FV435 Wavell, it was overly complex and functionally redundant. Only a few units were produced before the version was phased out. By the early 2000s, around 1,700 FV430 series armored vehicles of various modifications remained in service in the UK. A decision was made to upgrade part of the fleet to provide British troops with better protection against RPGs and improvised explosive devices during operations in Iraq. The UK Ministry of Defence signed a contract with BAE Systems to develop an improved version of the FV432 armored personnel carrier. In 2002, BAE Systems presented a demonstrator of the upgraded vehicle, which received the nickname Bulldog. It was equipped with a new 6-cylinder diesel engine from Cummins, producing 250 horsepower, and a new automatic transmission from Allison Transmission. The top speed was increased to 72 km per hour. The combat weight rose to 15.2 tons. Reactive armor kits from the Israeli company Rafael Advanced Defense Systems were added to the sides and front of the hull to protect against RPG-7 attacks. The bottom armor was reinforced to better protect the crew from IED blasts. An improved air conditioning system was installed. For the commander, a new weapon station was added, still featuring a 7.62 mm machine gun, with the option of using a remote-controlled weapon station. The crew remained at 2, and the vehicle could still transport up to 10 infantry troops. In 2005, a contract was signed with BAE Systems to upgrade 500 FV432 APCs to the Bulldog standard. Deliveries of the upgraded vehicles to the British Army began in 2006. In 2007, an additional contract was signed to upgrade another 400 vehicles to the FV430 Mk3 standard, with deliveries scheduled through 2011. This version, along with other armored vehicles and mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles featured earlier on the channel, continues to serve in the British Army, including in garrisons stationed around the world. Even though the Trojan is now over 60 years old, it remains relevant and will continue to serve for some time, at least within the British Armed Forces. Well, that was the FV430 family of armored vehicles. I hope this video was both interesting and informative for you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click like. That's all from me for now. Wishing you peaceful skies. See you next time. Bye.